Welcome back, everyone, for game number 2 of the Season 2 Auzom Premier League North American Finals. I am the Real Esquire, joined on the casting desk by Cameron Davis with Skyline on production and Mustache Dave on the desk. Guys, very exciting first game of the night. Cameron, what did you think about game number 1, and what do you expect to see here in game number 2?
Game number 1, I thought, was a really great. Game number 2 already starting off with a bit of a rough playing path as a contrast to the playing path of the very first game, so that could affect rotations early on in the game, depending where the circle is. While this plane is flying over, though, I do want to update everyone on the scoreboard. It did get updated. Envious are now in first place after taking second place of game number 1. Remember, this is all because of the advantages given due to placement after regular season. So FlyQuest, even though they won that game with a decent amount of kills, are only in third because they started the league in 15th place, only starting with 8 points, I think. So it's Envious in first, Duel in second, FlyQuest in third, and then Totality and E United in fourth and fifth. Both of those two teams absolutely propped up because of their ending placements.
Yeah, certainly interesting to see how the leaderboard shaped up after that first game. Envious absolutely coming in clutch with that first place finish. But shifting our focus back over to game number 2 and our plane path. Plane coming out of the northeastern corner, very sharp angle towards the north, like you mentioned, Cameron. So not a favorable plane path in the eyes of most of these squads. Early shots already coming out from E United, connecting onto Dash from Render Esports. Such an early down in such an early part of the game. I mean, I don't know what you do at this point. You just have to kind of let it happen, connect with it. They tried to run over him, but a little bit of a hill presented the safety that Dash needed there. But it's only a matter of time until he gets taken out.
There's just nothing you could do at this point, honestly. For the rest of the team, they just have to cut their losses. If they're not in a position to immediately commit, then you don't want to. Look at this first circle, though. This is actually kind of fair. It does balance out that playing path, because all the teams that are having to make that are still in rotation right now, they won't have to rotate further. They're going to be in the circle. For the teams that had to rotate less, they now have to rotate a second time in. So in a way, it does balance out rotation timings for a lot of these squads.
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, one of the other things to note about this circle is a lot of the areas inside of it aren't going to be occupied, given the fact that it wasn't the favored area of the map, like you had previously mentioned, Cameron. But with this, E United in a very favorable position already, going to be able to loot this entire area, shelter, prison, possibly moving into the mansion and farm area as well. Guys trading out the buggy there. Lost the tire somehow in the process, or maybe popped it, disabled the vehicle. Any more movement on the map, but it's going to be getting out of there in style, I would say.
Yeah, I always consider doing that myself. Like, do I want to bother taking the time or like the ammunition? But yeah, no, it's actually a really good idea to just mess up anyone else's potential rotations, especially because that could be that's in a rotation spot into this circle, and so it could definitely be used by any other squad around this area. Looking right now onto Space Station Gaming, they loot up in the what I call the Fairy Pier trash, because it's not Fairy Pier itself, it's just the area surrounding it. A little bit of a split loot situation. Vexel Hero's got this group of yellows right now trying to loot through individually. Not that great on loot, but it's fair enough of them right now that you can get pretty kitted out.
Yeah, certainly. We also see Pat Naps and the rest of the God Squad opting to take that military proper stance. Going to be the only squad down there, so they're going to have a great looting phase with no competition for the time being. But we are seeing more and more squads that dropped on that western edge of the map, Cameron, start to rotate and get a little bit more centralized, or possibly even more favored towards that eastern edge of the map, knowing that that if anything happens like that first game, these transition periods are going to be extremely dangerous.
The one thing to note about this circle is, as you said, Gods are the only team down in a military base, but the rest of the circle, like, no one else is going to go down to the military base, and the rest of the circle is only about half of the size of the first circle. Oh, excuse me. So a lot of teams are going to have to fit in a very small spot together, which is doable given the size of the first circle. But if that strait between the two islands does stay in the next circle, teams could be forced to fight earlier than they may otherwise hope to.
Yeah, they certainly might as well. Let's look around the map, though, Cameron, at some of these transitions that we can sort of maybe get an early scope on that might be a little bit dangerous. This western edge looking very jam-packed. Totality and going to be in a good position to sort of gatekeep any of these squads very close to that western part of the first zone on game number 2 of the evening. Tony B and the rest of his teammates going to be riding in this UAS, coasting a little bit to the south and making an entry directly to the southwest of Pachinki, where I believe that's Duel. Duel found themselves a home in Pachinki during this map. Cloud9 opting not to take that area.
So yeah, Totality, they're doing a good job pathing right now. They're swinging it down to the south. They don't want to go across the fields of Pachinki because anyone in Pachinki itself could take easy shots at them. And so they're making to put that large hill in between them and the city. I'm curious to see if they're going to stop on the hill itself or go continue into a more central position, because they are leaving early enough that they could find a central spot without much contest. FlyQuest also on the middle of their own rotation right now, once again making another early spot. Totality, actually, they're stopping pretty close between Space Station and Nova. They want to grab a coastal position just in case a hard shift does throw it onto Military Island. That just means that they're going to want to have a really quick access to get across.
Yeah, shots coming out from Nerf Me Please of Nova are trying to lock down this compound and fend off any other scouts that are going to be coming through. Zampa from Tempo Storm also scouting out this area. Vexel from Space Station going to be shooting at him. Nerf Me Please going to be taking some shots at this scout as well. So, you can see how much these squads want to hold on to these positions. Zampa dangerously close down to this Totality squad. Tony B taken down very low from that previous engagement, but also taking Zampa down very low, able to escape into the water, trying to get deep enough to where he can submerge himself and get some safety, escaping with about 10% HP.
They lost Dre, though, so Tempo Storm, they didn't go out of this scot-free, even if Zampa is able to make his way away, and it's going to be rough for him because look at all this open beach. Totality, they just need to have one person watch this direction, and the health that Zampa is on, it won't be too hard to finish him off if he tries to beach this close to them. So he may just try and chill in the water for now, have the other 2 remaining players of Tempo Storm find their own place. The rest of Totality are arriving right now, trying to go to a different spot to employ some sort of split holding position right now to try and gather any map control at this point.
Yeah, Smithy and Interrogate a little bit north of the other 2 members of Totality, taking some shots from that FlyQuest squad who opted to sort of take up shelter in the compound directly north of where all these engagements are happening on the southern portion of the main part of Erangel. But with that, all of these squads are now starting to stake out what positions they can get in this first zone of game number 2 on the night. Cameron in Vegas is going to be blowing through here, trying to reunite with the rest of his squad that has already made a progress on this eastern edge of the circle near shelter.
I like this split that Unite are actually employing right now. They got 2 people in the bowl just in the north, and then they have that compound, what I call the shelter cross compounds. They have the western half of that, and so it's employing a very nice split between the 2 of them. The one thing I will say about the bowl is that there is one particular spot on the hill north of Milta that can be very punishing on it. However, I don't know if Render Esports is a team that regularly takes that hill, and as a circle like this, that hill isn't terribly powerful. So E-United, I don't think there's going to be too much of a threat onto them from that position, but we may see if that does become the case later on in the game.
Yeah, certainly Team Gates coming down from the north right there, Teflon TV, and a few of the members of Core 4 trailing right behind them, possibly going to have some shots ringing out from this Team Gates squad as Teflon TV is going to be transitioning right between this gauntlet of E-United and Team Gates in that dossier. Going to be a solo player right there in the car, so if he gets knocked out of there, he's going to have no support from any of his teammates, but he's going to be blowing through there fast, not stopping for anything. Going to be continuing his trek on towards the south.
Rotations continuing to come through. You can see just how tight everyone is, but Nova, they are in I don't know. They're all spread out. They're all 4 individual players alone right now. I don't know if this was on purpose or if they were perhaps late on their looting. They were looting in a split fashion, but they may have taken too long to get back together and are now separating each other because there were squads all intermingled within them. So we gotta wait to see if they're gonna somehow find a way to get back together with each other, or if they're gonna have to play a lot of this game out as just 4 individual solos. Let's see what happens. But Envy, they're putting pressure down recently at Space Station Gaming in the Southwest. But look at this, Team Gates and who is this? I believe
Core
this
4.
is Core 4 driving past. Mossy pops out, tries to land a couple of shots onto Lush. None of them connect, and the hill does block the rest of that angle. Mossy may perhaps be able to catch out more members of Core 4.
Yeah, looking around the map, Cameron, so many squads right now are in 2-2 splits. We see 2-2 splits all over the place. Space Station Gaming, Team Envious, Duel. Everyone's in a 2-2 split currently, and whether or not that's beneficial for your team, I mean, I think it's very specific to your teammates and how you're able to support one another. But I mean, some interesting things sort of present themselves when you have teams splitting up and sort of taking more of the square footage available. These transitions become even more deadlier, I think, when you have more teams in these splits, because they're able to cover different rotations that wouldn't be covered if you were sort of grouped up together, more in 4-man squads. Looking at the southwestern portion of the map, though, is Envious rotating into these remaining members of Space Station Gaming. Shots ringing out from Totality as well, up to that FlyQuest squad to the northwest.
Look at this, though. Wildcard and Space Station are in a bit of a fight down the southwest side. 2-2, and here come the remaining 2 of Wildcard right now. The two North members of Space Station have to come and arrive quickly and try to help their teammates. But as of now, Wildcard have successfully wedged themselves inside Space Station's compound.
Yeah, a lot of squads down here, certainly aware of one another's presence, as Space Station had previously engaged onto the 2 members of Envious directly to the northeast of this location. Going to be rotating off of this. Space Station is 4 men strong against this wildcard squad, so an engagement that they could take, but do they want to right now? They don't have a beat on any of them, but they're going to be retreating to this hill to possibly get some cover. Vexel pushed out very aggressively, actually. He's going to be going into this wildcard compound, and he is not looking the direction of those wildcard players, possibly disconnecting. That is going to be an unfortunate loss for Space Station. He's going to be going off the cliff.
Yeah, hopefully he lands directly into the water, and then that won't be that bad, but I think there's actually a beach below him, so he may be out of luck. Rocks do stop him. Okay, so
he's back.
Is he back?
He's
He
back.
back? Hello? Welcome back to the waking world. Hello? Vexel? That's fine. He'll get back, and he wasn't spotted. Here's the thing. He actually wasn't spotted. So
right. Surprising.
If Space Station do end up trying to fight Wildcard, if Wildcard had no clue that he was there. So he actually could have been in an interesting position to kind of backstab Wildcard. But it looks like Space Station, they are backing off somewhat. They don't want to commit to an engagement like this so early into the game, especially for a portion of the map that's not even in the next zone.
Yeah, exactly. Not in the zone at all, but possibly Vexel's disconnect might actually force this engagement, being that the 3 other members of Space Station had to pull back and sort of give him this cover. Solid FPS, though, trying to spot down these members of the squad directly above him. I believe that is Duel, possibly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's going to be Duel. Zark trying to get away from these shots with solid FPS, not letting him do so. Damage being rained out left and right.
They do have the cover of that shelter entrance. No, that's a sewer entrance. Nonetheless, they have cover of that big giant brick thing to deal with. Pendulo trying to peek up, trying to land some shots back in return, but banded right in the chest. Got to med that one up with the bandages. They could continue to stay here and gatekeep Cloud9, though, because they're not in themselves, but Cloud9 have a longer path into the circle. And unless Cloud9 start the rotation, oh no, Space Station want to go for the fight right now, right into Wildcard.
Yeah, Tumaya's going to be raining out some shots onto the Space Station Gaming squad, pushing in, trying to provide Vexel with some support after that disconnect. But these teams are going to be fully engaged now. There's no backing out of this. I don't think either squad is going to let the other retreat, as both squads are now seeking cover inside of these yellow buildings, almost waiting for this blue zone to push them in and force this rotation. It's inevitable that these squads are going to run into one another. Pride trying to play a little bit of a spoiler, getting a little bit of a southwestern flank on this, getting in the vehicle, possibly going to try to get out of this. I mean, this is not an engagement that you want to take. If there is a route out of here, Cameron, I think you try to take it, but it's going to be tough for these wildcard members left in this compound.
Yeah, I think it's just one left. I think it's just Tumai. He just got taken out. So Space Station, I think they are down to just one. Thankfully, that one player was able to make that retreat. Okay, so 2 of them are out. Sure, no, those are separate teams. Is that Shark Shot from? Yeah, those are different teams.
Those are different
Those
teams.
colors are just way too similar.
Way too similar.
No, the
But
same.
yeah,
They're
I
the
think
same. They're the same.
Sharpshot must be subbing
Yeah.
on the wildcard squad. Yeah, they look very similar, but almost sort of different. So
Well, we
I
didn't
get
speak. The point is, both of them got out, and that's good. They went out first
yes.
on game number 1. They don't want to repeat that this time around, and so they're able to make their way through. They are gonna have to go through a field, which they could get punched by Richie, but Richie is another lone player of Nova, so he may just want to stay quiet. And hope that no one pushes on his position if once they figure out that he's alone. But nonetheless, looking at the mainland, most everyone is now inside the circle. Duel backed off from that engagement, as well as Cloud9. Cloud9 with a long loop around onto School. Duel now taking the tippy top of Potato Mountain. Richie hiding out because he does hear the cars arrive, and he's expecting them to come into these barn buildings.
Yeah, a good spot for a solo player right now to take up. The barn buildings certainly being attractive buildings, especially riding the edge, the western edge of this safe zone. Pride and Cybershot HD previously escaping that Space Station Gaming squad to the southwest, going to take up cover here. A good spot for them to find themselves in. Fortunately enough, they didn't run into Richie yet, so they're going to get a little bit of reprieve from engagements, but Totality now getting engaged on by this God Squad to the south, as well as it's Imagine spraying down some shots onto Maluk, and Tempo Storm going to be taking out Maluk, actually. So a rough loss for Tempo Storm right there, Cameron.
Yeah, once again, I think it's just been Q5 left for Tempo Storm because Zampa, he made his way into the water, but he got taken out not long after. And so Tempo Storm on the struggle bus consistently with those rotations. Then Q5 has found his way into the zone, the safe zone. He is on the edge, though, which means that if it's a hard swing away from him, it's going to be another brutal transition for him. Still 16 alive, and if he gets spotted at all, it's going to be Tempo Storm going out first this time. So he wants to try and take it low and slow. The circle is closing in right now, though, and we're going to see where the third circle is going to be taking us. Okay, so not a bad swing, but it is still away from that northern section. However, it is still on top of most teams. This farm area has a lot of compounds, and so it's been able to be shared by a number of different squads.
Yeah, certainly. And since a lot of these squads have already been inside of this next circle that has presented itself, so there's not going to be a lot of rotations, but a lot of these squads know where other squads are. We've seen this area be very active so far in game number 2 of the evening. Poke shots being fired left and right. Totalities interrogate. A little bit spread off from a squad to the north. Going to be pushed on now by E United. Gets the shots off onto Riem. Downs Riem and Vegas, taking out 2 members of this E United squad. A huge play by Interrogate right there, being a solo player split off from the other 3 members of Totality, Cameron.
Purdy actually was very impactful in defending that position as well. He actually got one of those 2 knocks, and this is what makes a split good or bad, is whether or not you can assist each other. While Taro being by himself, you may think that that's a very bad move and very vulnerable to multiplayer crashes onto him. The angles from the rest of his squad down to the south was all that he needed to get that 2-for-0 trade. A lot of crashes coming into the mainland right now. We got Cloud9 on their own transition, trying to come in from the north. They're continuing to swing on the western side, using that hill to block any sight lines from a more central position. But they may have to come in basically from along the coast.
Yeah, they might have to take a different route than a less conventional route, given the fact that this western edge is going to be pretty compacted. Richie opting to move out of that shack that he was in near those barn buildings directly off of Pachinki, heading south, taking a few pop shots at this Cloud9 squad, going for that huge rotation like you had just mentioned, coming off the southwestern edge right there. Shots now ringing out all around the map as FlyQuest has spotted out Envious, Jesse LOL, Check Shooter, as well as possibly even Wildcard, Pride and Sharpshot taking some shots as well. Poke just coming out left and right, sort of what we're beginning to see a lot of towards these mid-game circles.
So a couple of members of Shoot to Kill have been able to invade the larger farm compound right now. Uncivils, as well as backup from It's Imagine Adam Dids, taking this red roof building, and it is isolated enough from the rest of Set to Destroy that they can't necessarily push in onto him. They're doing as good of a job as they can to hide their vehicles, but this stage in the game, it may not be possible to hide it from all angles.
Yeah, looking at the southeastern portion of the circle is Render Esports trying to possibly push up for a more favorable position, getting popped off by the God Squad. Protege Drassel spotting out Mr. Blown Apart, as well as the remaining members of Render. So more and more shots coming out. Blue Zone is approaching this circle, so we will have a new circle or shortly rather, should I say. But I mean, not a lot to say right now, Cameron. These squads are just pretty safe, given the fact that not many transitions had to happen there.
We still have a couple of players trying to make their way in. Solo Richie of Nova. He's not the only remaining player of Nova. There is still Locknarb in a pretty good central position. But now that he is in, the only squad that is out is going to be Duel. But look at this interesting play by Shoot to Kill. Took a dive across the field, taking shots from Set to Destroy the entire way. But now they have another split inside the farm area. And this kind of just puts more pressure on Set to Destroy X, because they have a little bit of a crossfire they're going to have to deal with if they ever have to transition out.
Yes, certainly they might have some issues presenting themselves as the circle will continue to shrink. Blue Zone almost done with its transition phase right now. Shots though coming out as it will be finishing that transition. Drassel still trying to aim down onto Render Esports, but next circle favoring the western edge a little bit, but still pretty centralized. Looking around the map, Core 4 in a very favorable position. Locknarb, one of the remaining players for Nova, locking down that compound. And not a bad place for him to be. Solo player, so needs to be very careful. But Team Gates making a very fast transition off of that northeastern corner. Going to be trying to get any sort of compound that they can, but shots ringing out in this transition phase as Totality has spotted out this rotation.
These players from Team Gates made their way to the shack just in time to beat Totality to it. But Totality, they're not in a position that they can't punish that. They did have that tower that Terra was holding that entire time. But let's look at the central area, because Core 4, they are being really greedy right now, or at least they thought they were. They look like they were trying to spread out this entire compound, but no. Lush, he pushed onto this compound individually, said, hey guys, it's free, because Locknarb, he is already on his retreat out. He's proning down in the meadow. And so everyone else is converging on that spot. One player is staying farther to the north, just to have a little bit of a split angle onto them, I think. Or maybe he's just, he took a wrong turn and he's going to be revving. Yeah, so they're going to take this tall building. And this building is very, very strong if you know how to use it correctly, just because of its height, as well as the amount of windows that you have around it. Now, those windows obviously are two-way windows. You can get shot through them, and some of them can be rather large. But if you are aware what angles you can and cannot peek, it can be very useful, especially how central this one is.
Yeah, it certainly can be. Frolicker and the rest of Cloud9 taking a bunch of shots right now, getting engaged on by this Render Esports squad. Frolicker down to about 50% HP, trying to hide behind the car for some cover. Solid FPS doing the same, as well as Elusive. Moody gets knocked in the process, so it's going to be a 3v4 engagement. A Solid FPS is now trying to connect with any of these members. Ben Long up on the hill gets down almost immediately.
Ooh, Solid, he knows that there's a backstab coming in. Walt Jr.'s legs, he's the one that took out the player on the west, and he also takes out Elusive, which means that it's just Solid FPS to try and turn this back. He did get a couple of downs, but easy res is coming out from Render, and here comes Walt Jr.'s legs with an easy finish on them, down to 30 HP. But the clutch didn't happen. He is going to have to run over to his teammates, though, in order to get those reses. Cloud9 almost turned it around, but in the end, they ended up going out in 15th place.
Yeah, a huge flank coming out for Render right there. I mean, that pretty much sealed the deal right now. I don't think Solid expected that flank at all. I mean, he was pretty much caught off guard in that and was easily taken out to take Cloud9 out in 15th place, I believe, for this match number 2. Wildcard, though, can't escape engagements. Been in battles pretty much this entire game right now, as they're going to be directly to the west of Duel up on this hill. Wooly taking a few shots as they were approaching up the hill. Pride taking some shots as well.
I would love it if K-Mind ended up got down because he fell, but whatever. I'm pulling off that bit from now on. But that's a rough position for them to be in right now, because that's a strong spot. But they're gonna have to rotate south, most likely. Looking at a crate that is being dropped in the center of a field. A nice one, M24, but not too much asides. No armor, no utility items in there. It's just a very powerful weapon. But ooh, Duel, they're trying to fight back. They're trying to keep Wildcard Gaming pinned down. I don't know if they've been able to get down and get that revive onto K-Mind. It looked for a second that he was still down. Pendulum continuing to put those shots in onto that shack.
Yeah, certainly. And directly to the south of that is Team Gates, spotting out these teams, hugging the edge of the northern part of the circle, taking a bunch of pop shots wherever the opportunities are presenting themselves. Envious on the northwestern side of this circle, still 4 men strong. Gonna have to transition a little bit given this next circle favoring the northwestern side. A lot of these squads on the eastern and northeastern side of the map are gonna have to transition, as well as the south. I mean, it's gonna be absolutely bloody here, Cameron. This is the part of the game that we were waiting for, and look at this. Render's already beginning to make this transition, and shots are coming out from the Space Station Gaming squad.
They have a small defilade to hide behind. but they are going to have to start moving soon because they only have 45 seconds before the blue closes. And they're probably going to want to use their vehicles to get in because while it's not a complete flat field, it's not the most cover if they're trying to hoof it on foot. But still the time, trying to take some shots at another team in the middle of their own rotate, but he's backing off because he hears multiple vehicles still around him. And they also have to make their own way inside the circle, trying to take shots at anyone they can. Protege and a teammate get inside a building just next to Core 4, so they at least have some, they able to grab some piece of this compound away from that team in the center.
Yeah, certainly not the most favorable building in that compound, but a building nonetheless, and next to that Core 4 squad. Core 4 being very favored by this this circle that presented itself. Team Gates being in the circle as well, directly to the north. So those are the three teams I think that you need to look at, given the fact that this circle is now encroaching and so many squads are going to be coming off the previous edge of that safe zone. Look at this totality. I mean, rather, I'm sorry, that's not totality. The God Squad is being trailed by Uncivils for shoot to kill, possibly just waiting until he has an opportunity to possibly either take some shots or secure a better hiding spots, being the solo player directly behind this four-man squad.
He does have two teammates of shoot to kill inside the compound in the center. And so if he's able to leapfrog into the zone, which is his goal right now, he doesn't want to get into a fight yet, but once he gets into a position that they could adequately pincer this team from the building and him backstabbing, he may pounce and be the deciding factor on who wins this fight. But God Squad able to make their way inside the zone just barely. They do lose one of their players in the meantime, and a lot of teams are losing a couple of players as rotations continue to come in because the blue is closing, and it's not closing at a snail's pace either. And Civils pops out the car 98. Gotta toss a smoke though, because they know that he's there. He's got to use these smokes to find some way to get in. Hopefully his teammates can perhaps draw some attention, draw some fire. But if there's no angles available from that small compound that we saw them crash into earlier, they may have to leave him alone, leave him up to his own devices. A couple of nades being tossed out though. This one may be money. Oh, and it is. It does get it down onto Pat Caps. Two more remaining, though, and they continue to have the angle, and they get him down. So it is going to be a trade, but is the res on Pat Caps possible?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's going to be in that engagement. They certainly did give away their position to any of these squads in that general vicinity. Core 4, Render Esports, Shoot to Kill, Totality, all very, very nearby. Uncivil's trying to get out of this blue zone, but is not going to be able to do so as Pat Caps finishes him off. So that is going to be it. Ben Long now trying to aim down and see if he can connect with any more shots, but not, I mean, not much down there. H1 is going to be using this smoke for Space Station Gaming right now, trying to figure out how he's going to get it in this zone. Shots are ringing out all over the place. Purdy spotting out this dual squad to the north who needs to make a transition down to the south. This is a deadly part of the game, Cameron.
Absolutely, and look at all these teams that are still on the edge. These teams are either on the edge or inside the circle, and the circle is still, that compound is still favored in the circle at this point. In fact, it's cutting off a big portion of it, so those two players from Shoot to Kill are going to have to continue to move. They can just leapfrog up into that garage compound, but this is a total ring around that edge. No one can move yet either. They want to grab control of their section before they push forward, and that's exactly what FlyQuest are doing. They are pushing south, trying to comb their area, and they may come across Space Station Gaming.
Yeah, they possibly might cross Space Station Gaming. It looks like they're heading in that direction, or at least sort of looking in that direction. Expecting there to be someone there. This transition is going to be extremely deadly, as most of these teams, like you mentioned, are riding the edge of the previous safe zone. Only really Core 4 and Team Gates are favored right now. Shoot to Kill has to transition as well. They had previously bombed this compound directly next to this Core 4 squad, and unfortunately they're going to have to leave their spot. Little Prodigy and the rest of the squad. Oh, Little Prodigy pushing into the bathroom, ends up getting the drop onto Protege, who was in there waiting for Shoot to Kill. So huge plays coming out of these squads right now.
Yeah, that split ended up not working out. It's Imagine with a nice backstab, dropping two players of God Squad, but that push into the bathroom, Little Prodigy, he kind of, not Little Prodigy, sorry, whoever it was that was still in the bathroom kind of dropped the ball on that because he had all advantages in that engagement, and that's, of course, he was heard and the player knew that he was there, but nonetheless, it's a big crunch here at the bottom, but multiple teams try and go in through those hard walls. Right now, trades back and forth. Sharp shot gets taken down. It's just PD left from Wildcard. Able to make it this far into the game, but can they make it any further? He is inside the circle, and he's actually relatively isolated, but if he moves an inch, he's going to get taken out by Team Gates.
Yes, certainly. Core 4 spotting out FlyQuest as well on the western edge of the circle. Going to be taking some shots at them, a few of them connecting. So certainly some damage coming out. Going to play into this attrition game as the circle continues to push on these players who are riding the edge. A lot of them are able to make this this very slow transition into the next safe zone, but it was a very dangerous transition as we saw so many players and so many teams get dropped out. 7 teams remaining, 17 players alive. It's Imagine taking a lot of damage, dropped down to about 15% HP, and Padcaps pops out of the door and finishes them off as the blue zone will now be pushing them further in.
Yeah, they heard those shots. They were able to triangulate the position of the remaining player of Shoot to Kill. They punished that. They also push him forward, and they take out a player of Space Station Gaming. Continue to push forward as too. Smurf takes a little bit of damage. Patcaps runs in, but Little Prodigy does get dropped by Hwin from an alternate angle. And here has been Long, a third player from neither of these teams. If he can sneak out and drop Patcaps when the res is going on, that is going to be God Squad out in 6th place. But so far, he's hiding still.
Yeah, holding this position very patiently, possibly unaware of what all is happening around him, but there was certainly a lot going on in that building. Shots now erupting as Patcaps and Little Prodigy are trying to ride the front of this building. Ben Long still underneath the stairs, trying to get any sort of drop on any of the players who possibly try to breach into this, opting for the 2nd floor to possibly get a better vantage, using that elevation for different sight lines. Not seeing anyone yet. Blue Zone will be pushing in on these players in about 30 seconds, and that next circle directly on top of Core 4.
So at least one member of God Squad got taken out. Ben Lux used this moment to readjust himself, but he was heard peeking over. Some shots already on his position by Space Station Gaming. Do they know that this is a separate player or another one of the God Squad has yet to be seen? But Ben Long doesn't know there's a player just to his south. I don't know if Little Prodigy is going to be looking up at him, though. Drinking an energy drink right before the blue starts to close in, and it's going to be closing in on a single compound held by Core 4. And there he goes. He drops down. It's going to be Little Prodigy who takes him out, at least getting a top 5 for his team. But now the blue is moving in.
Yeah, blue is moving in. A sense of urgency now being placed on this team, or all the teams, really. I mean, Team Gates still having to rotate off of this northern position, engaging onto Core 4. Core 4 in a 2-2 split, still engaged with FlyQuest to the west, as well as Team Gates to the north. And Teflon TV is going to be the member of Core 4 to take out Team Gates. So we have 4 teams remaining, 11 players alive, as this circle is pushing on and doing a lot of damage if it catches you. FlyQuest getting absolutely destroyed here on the western edge. 3 players down, 1 player still remaining for FlyQuest. Will they be able to evade these shots? Blue, the only player, or one, actually 2 players still up for FlyQuest. Blue and one of his teammates still riding that western edge, as Space Station Gaming still dangerously close to the God Squad on the southeastern portion of this map.
So Little Prodigy is being able to med up long enough for Vexel to leave his target, and now he's going to make the run in now that he's out of meds. Able to get inside, maybe just barely, but he avoids trouble for now. But let's look back over on Core 4. They had an interesting split employed at this position, but I think the 2 players on the east got taken out, or at least one of them did. No res possible, so it's just 2 of them alive. Yeah, they did actually lose 2 in that the split fights that they had. So it ended up being too greedy of a take to begin with, but they are still in the top 4. A drop on one of the 2 remaining players of FlyQuest is going to get stolen by Hwin. Only 1 left, but he's going to continue to get pressured by the shots from the center. And that center position is still in the next zone.
Yeah, still in the next zone. Going to be playing in favor of Core 4, L2P, Lush, and Nitrogen. Still up for that squad, as they do have a few players to worry about. A solo player for the God Squad to the south, as well as the 2-man squad of Space Station Gaming to the southwest. And then that FlyQuest squad still remaining on that western edge. So a lot to look out for, as this blue zone will be pushing in about 15 seconds. They do have a favorable compound and good cover to work with. They just need to be pretty much aware of a 360 flank.
Only a couple seconds before this final circle closes in. And once again, Core 4, even though they're only down to 2, they are still separate from each other. But plays like that, especially in late game position, can be very, very strong. There's only 6 alive, and so the chances of them going up, they know the chances of them going up against a full squad of 4 are very unlikely. Vexer tries to stand up, takes a lot of shots, tries to answer back, drops down. Can he find the head of Lush? He doesn't. Lush does take a couple of shots, but he does get dropped. But Lush does finally get dropped, actually. But here's Little Prodigy on the run in. Does get spotted out by Space Station Gaming. It's going to be Hwin who finishes that off. Can Hwin get the revive onto Vexel? Is there enough time, or is he going to continue to push in up against Nitrogen? It's now just 2 versus 2. Both players bleeding, both squads with the player bleeding out, but God Squad Core 4 able to get theirs picked up. It's just Hwin left, opens the door. but the revive on the stairs is going to be safe enough to keep it in a 2 versus 1.
Yeah, Nitrogen really getting a clutch res there, able to get the numbers advantage as his teammate pushes back up the stairs to possibly get some meds off and get some safety. H-Win Blue Zone pushing in on him. It's going to be taking a lot of damage if he gets caught inside of it, and he is inside of it. A lot of damage now coming out. He's going to be needing to pop whatever meds he can. It looks like he's out of the Blue Zone right now, so he's going to be safe for the time being, but Nitrogen and the other teammate for Core 4 Lush know exactly where H1 is, and they're going to be watching this window for anything that presents itself, and that is going to be it. Nitrogen connecting with the M416 on to H-Win to pretty much seal a beautiful first place finish for Core 4. Cameron, what do you have to say for this?
Just 4-4, they held that central compound, and they weren't just hiding out, they were taking fights, they were trying to take control. They ended with only 10 kills. It's a little lower for a first place finish than we're used to, but it's still a decent enough number, especially considering that most teams wanted to stay on the edge, and so they kind of helped like thin each other out, thin the herd out themselves before going in on the position. Their split ended up, they lost a couple of players because of it, but it also allowed them to maintain control of that center spot for long enough to continue to have an advantage into the late game. But enough of the two of us. Let's bring Dave back in here to continue this chat with us where he talks over and breaks down game number 2. Dave.
Bring it back.